This video is for Lesson 1-1, Basic Geometric Figures. Learning goals are to identify, describe, and name points, lines, segments, rays, and planes, and to identify and name angles. So both of these skills are things that you've done in previous math classes. We're going to review these today. Below are some types of figures you have seen in earlier math courses. Describe each figure using your own words. If you can recall the mathematical terms that identify the figures, you can use them in your descriptions. First one, I see a dot and it's labeled Q. So we could write out that description. And officially that is called point Q. So if you remember that that was called point Q, that's awesome. Okay, number two, I see a line with an arrow on one end. The line starts at point F and travels to the right, going through two other points along the way. If you recall that this was called ray FG, or it could also be called ray FH, that's awesome. Question 3, what do you see? I see a line with arrows on both ends going through a couple of points. If you remember that this line could be called line XY, or it could be called line XZ, or even line YZ, that's very good. Question 4, what do you see? I see a part of a line that has points at each end. Maybe you remember that this could be called segment DE, or it could be called segment ED. Now, question 5, I see an angle. Or another way to describe what I see a point labeled A, and from that point there are two rays extending, creating a figure that is called an angle. Maybe you knew that you could call this angle A. Question 6, what do we see this time? Well, again, I see an angle. The two rays appear to start from point S. This angle appears to be wider opening than the previous angle, so we see an obtuse angle. This obtuse angle is made of ray SR and ray ST. Perhaps you knew that you could call this angle S, or you could name this angle RST, or you could even name this angle TSR. All three of these are naming the same figure. Question 7, what do you see? Well, I see a parallelogram drawing that has several dots on it. But this parallelogram drawing is to represent something that exists in space. It's there to represent a plane or a flat surface. Perhaps you knew that you could name this plane X, where a capital cursive letter is the name of a plane. Or another way to name this plane is to use 3 points that don't line up in a straight line. For example, plane JKT, or plane PKN, or plane PTN, or plane JTP. Any 3 letters, as long as they don't line up in a straight line, can be used to name a plane. This chart summarizes what we just discussed. A point is named with a capital letter. For example, point P. When drawing it, you put a dot, you put a capital letter by the dot. A line is named using any 2 points on the line, or with a line symbol drawn above, or can be named using a lowercase letter. For example, in this drawing, this picture could be called line AB. It's hard to see because it's so small, but above the A and B, there's a line symbol, which is kind of like a segment symbol, but with arrows on both ends. The letters can be reversed, so line BA is the same line as line AB. Again, the symbol is a segment with arrows on both ends. The other way to name a line is with a lowercase letter, line M. A line segment. This is named using the 2 endpoints in any order with a segment symbol drawn above. So if you had this drawing, this segment ends in dots, unlike the previous drawing with the A and B. So you can name this segment ST. Above the ST, there is a segment symbol, no arrows. Or you could name it segment TS. A ray. A ray is named using the end point and one other point with a ray symbol drawn above. The end point is always listed first. So in this drawing, the end point is capital M. So this is ray MN. Again, it's hard to see, but above the MN, there's the symbol for ray, which is a segment and an arrowhead pointing to the right. You can't call this ray NM because N is not the endpoint. This is a little blurry here. Let me redo the ray symbol. It's a tiny little ray, put the capital letters underneath. Okay, last one, a plane or a flat surface. This is named using any 3 points in the plane that are not on the same line. Or you can name it using a capital cursive letter. So this drawing here, this is plane FGH or FHG, the order doesn't matter, or you could call it plane Q. Question 8, identify each geometric figure and give all possible names for the figure. So question A, this is called a segment. When naming this, you write the 2 endpoints and put the segment symbol above. Or you can name it in the other order. Segment PQ is the same as segment QP. Question B, this one is different from the one we just did because this has arrowheads on both ends. This is a line. When naming this, put the 2 capital letters and the line symbol above them. Or you could put the letters in the opposite order. Line CN is the same line as line NC. Question C. This parallelogram is not intended to be a parallelogram. Instead, it's representing a plane. And so this is a plane. And when naming it, we can say plane M, where you're using the capital cursive M to name it. Or another way to name a plane is to name it using 3 points that are on the plane, as long as the 3 points aren't in a straight line. So for example, plane BGT. These letters can go in any order. Okay, the last one, this is a point. And this is point D. You can write the word point and then say D, or you can simply write capital D. And in a geometry class, we know that that's not a variable, that capital letter means a point. Question 9. This is a little hard to read, so let me trace over that. That has the ray symbol. So this says draw ray FE and explain where points F and E lie on the ray. So ray FE starts at a point called F, and it doesn't matter which way you draw it on paper, it's your drawing, but then it travels and ends in an arrowhead, and somewhere along the way runs through point E. So something that looks like this is ray FE. Explain where the points lie on the ray. Well, point F is the end point of the ray, and point E lies on the ray. Number 10, critique the reasoning of others. Caleb says that the figure below can be named line KJ. This is hard to read. Let me trace that over. It's the line symbol. Jen says that the figure can be named line JL. Who is correct? Explain. So, Caleb, can you call this line KJ? Using 2 points on it and then putting the line symbol above? Yes, you can. Caleb is correct. Jen says you can call this line JL. Well, JL are also 2 points on that. So who is correct? They're both correct. And explain. Both students named the line using 2 points on the line. Okay, here's the check for understanding. So I'm going to pause the video and give you a chance to answer these and then push play again. Question 11. Is ray SR a possible name for the figure at the right? Explain. And then question 12. Graham draws a point. Describe how he could label and name the point. There are 3 different ways to name an angle. You can use the angle symbol and a number. The angle symbol looks like this. You can use the angle symbol and the vertex of an angle. Vertex of an angle is a point, so that's going to be a capital letter. Or third way, you can use the angle symbol and 3 points on the angle. The first point is on one side of the angle, the second point is the vertex, the third point is on the other side of the angle. Here's an example. Give all possible names for this figure, for this angle. One answer is to say angle 1. That's a pretty quick way to do it. Another answer is to use the vertex and just name this angle B. Again, that's very fast to do. You can also name it using 3 points. So all of these answers are the same figure. Angle A, B, C traces that figure. Angle A, B, D traces the figure. Angle C, B, A traces the same figure. And angle D, B, A, that bends that same corner and traces that same figure. All ways to name the same figure. Next, we have 2 problems for you to try. So again, I'm going to pause the video and give you a chance to answer these. Give all possible names for each angle. Question A, here's the figure. Give all possible ways to name that. Question B, give all ways to name that angle. And then here's 3 more check for understanding questions. I'll pause the video for you. Question 13. Draw a figure that could be named angle LMN. Question 14. Is angle FDE a possible name for the figure at the right? And explain. Question 15. How many different line segments does the figure at the right include? And name them. So this video was about basic geometric figures, and some of the skills that you are to practice are to be able to identify, describe, and name points, lines, segments, rays, and planes. Also be able to identify and name angles.